Good evening, everyone. Yaakov, also known as Jacob, leaves his father-in-law's house, and you could say he was leaving the frying pan and jumping into the fryer, because he meets his estranged twin, Esav, as he returns to what would later be the land of Israel. At the time it was called the land of Canaan, Eretz Canaan. And the Torah describes that Yaakov hears that Esav is coming to meet him. And he's not carrying chocolates and flowers. He's coming with 400 armed men. They're also legged men too. So they had all their limbs. Not a pretty sight. And Esav is not coming with a welcoming committee. And the Torah describes how Yaakov is nervous about meeting his brother under these circumstances. And the Torah describes his preparation. He splits his family into two groups. He splits his assets. He splits his flocks into two groups. And the Torah says, why? So that if Esav attacks one of them, the other one will be able to flee and will be able to escape. From a tactical perspective, it's not exactly clear in what orientation these two camps were located, so that one would be able to flee while the other one was under attack. But needless to say, that was Yaakov's plan for action. In addition to praying to God for salvation, along with sending tribute, sending gifts to Esav to placate him. The question is, why did Yaakov do all of these things? Shouldn't praying to God have been enough? Shouldn't beseeching the Almighty for salvation from his evil twin, literally, shouldn't that have been sufficient? Why did Yaakov feel the need to engage in strategy and to engage in bribery? And a perspective to this situation is that everything that happens to us in life is for our benefit. As the Gemara says, Kol ma'adavid rachmana l'tavavid, everything that God does is for the good. Not only will it have a good outcome, it is good currently. The question is, it is not always clear what is the best outcome. It's not always clear what God has in mind for us to take place. So our rabbis explain that in addition to having faith in God, emunah, in addition to having trust in God, bitachon, the difference between the two is emunah is more abstract, bitachon is practical, is doing something. What are you going to do that will demonstrate your faith in the Almighty? But at the same time, there's also the concept known as hishtadlus, putting in your own effort, doing something to unlock the divine blessing, to allow God's presence to be manifested through what you're doing. So Yaakov didn't exactly know what the intended outcome was. You could argue that if you're going to split it up, don't split it into two groups, split it up into four groups. You could argue that why send tribute? Create a diversion. You could have argued that maybe Yaakov should have turned around and ran away. He sees Esav is coming towards him, but this is in the days before drones, this is in the days before satellites. Was Esav going to find him if he didn't go where Esav expected? It's not exactly clear. But at the end of the day, from Yaakov's perspective, he had to do something. He had to do his hishtadlus, he had to put in his physical effort towards unlocking God's blessing and God's salvation. In a sense, Yaakov was hedging his bets. That if Esav had no malintent, then, okay, so Yaakov engaged in a little extra effort, it wouldn't make a difference. And if in the end of the day that Yaakov was, God forbid, going to lose his family, well, at least he could say, I did what I thought I had to do, but for some reason, although I don't understand it, God wanted my family to get wiped out. We hear such mentalities from some of the rabbis who survived the Holocaust. I mean, to think about the tremendous gvura, the tremendous amount of inner strength and fortitude required to say that type of statement. It's a big deal. But you don't become one of the avos, one of the forefathers in Judaism, unless you can pass muster. But regardless, Yaakov had to do something. Yaakov doing something, Yaakov sending tribute, Yaakov splitting his camp, was Yaakov's means of demonstrating that although everything was in the hands of God, Yaakov was not kicking back and relaxing. Yaakov was engaging with the situation and trying to do what he could to create a positive outcome. The message for us is that when we come into a crisis, when something's not going well, we have to turn to the Almighty for help. And we have to do the best we can, the best that we know how, to dig ourselves out of that situation, to make the most of the mess. We say in Judaism that God is the one who provides healing, not the doctors. Yet, in addition to having that faith and trust in God, that God will provide healing, we also believe and require that a patient and the patient's family and community engage in the best practices of medicine and of healing that is available to them. A lesson for us that we can see from Yaakov is, yes, rely on Hashem, yes, be connected to Hashem, yes, daven to Hashem, but do the best that you can. Have a great week.